Broussard. But Acho, where's your panic meter in terms of what the Nets are going through?
CB, first off, I can't be more excited. Couldn't have been more excited to see you, big dog, because I'm ready to hear your thoughts on this one, Broussard. I am ready. I've been eager and awaiting. But Nets fans, y'all got to stop lying to yourselves, because the panic meter is high for me, and it should be high for you. Y'all got three superstars. That's the big three we know: KD, Kyrie, Harden. But here's the kicker. Kevin Durant has played 24 games in roughly 700 days. Kevin Durant hasn't played more than 6 consecutive games this season. So we can't even count on KD to get through an entire 7-game playoff series. That's based on KD's physical reputation, not my opinion. Kyrie, he's missed 11 games this season, all based upon primarily his own choice. So that leaves you with James Harden. And James Harden can for sure be trusted to be left with. He leads the team in assists. He leads the team in rebounds. He leads the team in steals. So James Harden is a bad man. But now James Harden is an absent man. Now, if you don't know about soft tissue injuries, if you come back from a hamstring and re-aggravate your hamstring, that means you tried to do too much too soon. So, Nets fans, you can't bring James Harden back too soon, because what happens if he re-aggravates it again and now he has to miss time and you're dependent upon Kyrie and KD to lead you through the playoffs? Well, you would think Kyrie could do it, but the only problem is teams typically have more collective success without Kyrie than they do with Kyrie. Y'all remember the Boston Celtics? Kyrie gets hurt. The Celtics go to the Eastern Conference Finals. Next year, Kyrie comes back. They lose in the second round. Next year, Kyrie's gone to the Nets, and the Celtics go back to the conference finals. Y'all remember how last year the Nets were an overachieving team? Without Kyrie, Kyrie came back. They were an achieving team. Kyrie left. They were an overachieving team again. The record's really negligible in Kyrie on the Nets with their record with him versus without him, but I'm just going to leave that there. I don't make the news. I just deliver it. So with all that being said, my panic button is so very high for the Nets without Harden because Harden was the one dude you could count on. Now you got to count on KD to lead you through, but KD's never even played 7 consecutive games all season. You got to count on Kyrie to lead you through, but let a black man call Kyrie the N-word and he gonna lose it and get himself kicked out of game? Come on, people.
Come on, Nito.
Come on, people. My panic meter is high, but what you got, CB?
Wow. Good take.
Well, you saying they gonna be calling him the N-word up and down the court, huh? Every possession. Look, I know I usually come on this show and bring chastisement, but
yes,
I have to agree with Acho. My panic meter might not be as high as yours, but it's at a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10. And I've been with the Nets all year. Look, all things being equal, all teams in the NBA fully healthy, I think the Nets are the best team. And give them adequate preparation, they're the best team. But to your point, Acho, they don't check either of those buttons. 1, they're obviously not healthy. And 2, they don't have adequate preparation. For them to enter the playoffs with what now looks like 7 games with their big 3 together, I can't imagine that they could win the championship that way. Now, they're greatly talented, and one of the saving graces is that a lot of teams are beat up. This is a strange year. The Lakers are beat up. The Clippers now, Kawhi's out. Denver, Portland without Dame Lillard now. Utah without Donovan Mitchell. The East not quite as beat up, but still, teams haven't had, they're not practicing hard every day like they usually do because the schedule's so condensed. So those things could help the Nets if they get healthy. But you said it, Acho. Harden is the guy. With KD and Kyrie, they were just 2 and 3. Before James Harden joined Brooklyn, they were just 7 and 6. He was the straw that stirred the drink with his selflessness, with his playmaking ability, and they were rolling. Look, I even think KD and Harden could win the championship. I don't think any other twosome could do it. Harden and Kyrie and KD, they'll be a contender. They'll be dangerous. But unless they have Harden and KD together, they got no chance of winning it all. And to your point, to think they couldn't get through a 72-game season and play more than 7 games. Are we really to believe they're going to go 16 to 28 potentially straight games healthy? It just seems like God is saying, look, you're not going to buck the trend. You're not going to skip the line. Most teams that come together have to take their lumps before they win the championship, no matter how talented. These are your lumps. It just doesn't seem like it's in the cards for them to win it this year.
Damn, CB, you almost made it the whole take without chastisement. But at the end, you told me what God was thinking. What the hell? And then you condemned us for whoever is thinking something different. And you know who you're talking to. Me right here. I do agree with you here, Chris Broussard. It is a strange year in the NBA. And y'all both gave me some strange takes right now because I didn't know y'all were going to be such literalists. Think big picture. Think about this situation. I'm telling y'all, this is the new load management. These guys are sitting here not trying to play. And I'm going to give you a well-articulated statement about all of this. First of all, we all know in life, incentives shape behavior. How you going to act? Correlated to what you're going to get out of acting that certain way. So the NBA and all these players have come to a realization, why should I play all these games? Every single year we're trying to shorten the season. And then the NBA caught wind of it. And the NBA said, hey, players, national televised games. Hey, players on back-to-backs, et cetera. They came out with these new protocols and rules, and the players like, oh, don't think we can't be creative in this situation. We could create the new load management. Walk with me here. This is Steve Nash's first year as a head coach, who used to consult with Steve Kerr. Former players. Let's talk about another former player who is credited with load management in the NBA in the first place, Doc Rivers. And it worked with the Big Three in Boston. And then it almost worked with the Clippers out here in LA. But when it didn't work, all of a sudden everyone questioned load management. But Steve Nash is sitting here taking the baton from his playing career. Don't forget how Steve Nash finished his illustrious career as a Los Angeles Laker, injured all the time with back issues. And I think Steve Nash came to a realization, and he's leading this team to understand, wink, wink, you're hurt, right? Wink, wink, it doesn't matter. These dudes have played 7 games together, and they're half a game back in the Eastern Conference at the number 2 seed. They're number 2 and ain't even played together. Oh, the team that won the Eastern Conference last year, the Miami Heat, are now the 7th seed. Play in game. Shoe program, Nito. That's what we're talking about when you see the Miami Heat. So why are they incentivized to go out there and impress us because they played a full regular season? These dudes are jogging, laughing at everybody else. And who you going to stick in front of them? The Lakers? They're injured as well. You talked about the Jazz. You talk about Portland. Talk about my Clippers. None of these teams stack up in terms of talent with the Brooklyn Nets. I'm telling you, these guys are all winking and laughing at us on the outside saying that they can't run this race when all they're doing is coasting and drafting to run the finish line stretch of this marathon.
CB, you know what it sounds like, big dog? It sounds like Marcellus is trying to convince us of a bad lie. You ever CB, I know you've been lied to. You got kids, you know what I'm saying? You got friends. And you know when your kid telling you a lie they think it sound good. Okay. And they like, but daddy, they not really hurt, daddy. They just trying to load manage because if they don't actually play together, daddy, and they save their strength, daddy, then at the end of the season, they going to have more energy pops than the rest of the team. So Kevin Durant, his skinny behind don't really got a thigh contusion, even though we saw that knee hit him in the thigh. He just faking. And James Harden, he didn't really have a hamstring issue. He's just trying to save his energy pops because that's really the best way for them to win it.
Yes,
and
you're
you just
onto it.
looking like, I ain't that kind of fool. Ain't no way I'm believing that. Sal, if it's not load management for the Los Angeles Lakers with Anthony Davis.
Oh, yes, it is.
If it's not
Tendinosis, yes, it is.
load management for LeBron James.
Oh, yes, it is.
If it's not load management
He came back and hit free throws and shooting threes. Yes, it is.
Kobe hit free throws off a torn Achilles.
Yeah.
If it's not load management for Spidey Mitchell, why are we all of a sudden going to assume that it's load management when James Harden has a hamstring, which he tried to come back from and re-aggravated? That's not load management, big dog. That's optimistic thinking on your behalf. But the biggest thing, and CB, you and I both spoke to it, so this is where I'm going to drive my point home on my second lap. Kevin Durant is a necessary piece to win a series, in my opinion, for the Nets, depending on who they playing in that series. Kevin Durant has not played more than 6 consecutive games this season. Right now, the Brooklyn Nets are set to face the Miami Heat, the Eastern Conference champions of last year, Miami Heat. That game is likely going to go to, at minimum, 6, and more than likely, 7.
Why?
Sal,
They
if
sorry this
KD
year.
ain't played more than 6 games consecutively all
They
season,
sorry this year.
and in
Ain't
the
going
first
6.
round, he's probably going to have to play at minimum 6. How you just blindly thinking to yourself, oh, it's not a big deal, I ain't got to panic. Bro, you might have to panic round 1 if you a Nets fan.
My God.
And look, to add to your point, Acho, KD hasn't played more than 6 straight games in nearly 2 years. It's been 23 months.
That's a good point.
All right. And look, Marcellus, I might buy what you were saying about KD and Kyrie, because we know Kyrie just needs to take off mentally, right? But Harden has been an Iron Man his whole career. His 8 years with the Rockets, he played more games than all but 3 players in the league. James Harden don't rest. James Harden don't be extra cautious. James Harden wants the ball. So if he is out, he's really hurt. And remember, Kevin Durant was out 6.5 weeks with the hamstring injury. They thought it would be 2 games. That was initially they said at least 2 games. It turned out to be 6.5 weeks. The playoffs start in a month. If it's just 5 weeks, 5.5, 6 weeks for Harden, then I won't say they're in trouble. They'll get out of the first round. But it's not looking good for them to win the championship, which is obviously their ultimate goal.
Man, well, y'all stop. AD is load managing, tendinosis. Oh, yeah, he needs another 2 weeks, indefinitely. LeBron is load managing with his high ankle sprain. He could come back if it were playoff time tomorrow, but he's not because he's load managing as well. Y'all doubted KD in his return. Now you're going to doubt KD in his playoff play in terms of him returning. Is he going to be the same? Came back averaging 30 on your head. Yeah, I'm going to be the same, if not better. Y'all better stop this. Acho's logic is so flawed. Acho's logic tells us, how are you going to be able to play if you don't play yourself into shape? That's why the NFL passed years ago that we had to play 4 preseason games as professional athletes, but in college, you have no preseason games. Just go out there and play. Acho, this flawed logic. You're the reason why we had them dumbass games before the season started. Harden's biggest issue in his career has been playoff fatigue. Why in the hell you think he's going to go out there and be the Iron Man and fatigue again in the playoffs? He's trying to run a different course. Let me say it like this. There are 3 choices. Acho's still laughing. There are 3 choices to the Brooklyn Nets. And thank you, Steve Nash, for cracking the code, the Da Vinci Code of how to load manage. Play hard to impress all of us as reporters, analysts, hosts, and pundits. Stupid. Wave the white flag and say, oh, we're just going to do this condensed schedule and who cares about it? That is not even really an option. Or just stay in a race, jogging, drafting, walking, whatever you got to do, and then sprint when you need to. Because guess what? You get to play the Miami Heat first. I already told you they're a play-in game team if they even make it to the playoffs. I'll give it to you in story form before we get up out of here. Bill Walsh was credited as kind of relaxing the NFL practices first. We all know how great Bill Walsh was as a coach. But he was the first one. Everybody else used to kill their players at practice. Bill Walsh was like, chill out. Chill out. Now, I know this personally because Marv Levy was our coach in Buffalo, and he also got credit for, like, chilling. I'll give you this story real quick. Marv Levy in practice one day is looking over there at the sideline. He's like, hey, what y'all doing? We were like, huh? Dumbfounded. We were like, we're standing here. He's like, why are you standing there? Dumbfounded again. What do you mean why are we standing here? He said, what do you do during the games? We were like, we sit on the bench. He's like, so practice like you play. Sit your butts down. And our heads exploded. First time I ever heard a coach like, chill, bruh. Steve Nash, who finished his career injured, is now looking at these guys like the racist at the finish line. Chill, bruh.
Here's my issue. That story undermines the point.
What's the point?
The point is, if the goal is to practice like you play.
Yeah.
And the regular season is thus practice because play is the playoffs, then shouldn't the Nets be practicing like they play? Shouldn't Kevin Durant be practicing at least play 7 games straight, sir, so we can see if you can at least get through a series against the Heat, against the Bucks, at minimum, at least you won't scoff at this one, at minimum against the Lakers.
No.
at least practice the regular season. Get through 7 straight games, because come the playoffs, you're going to have to play at minimum during the course of one of those stretches 7 games, or the 6 that you've played right now. If it's practice how you play, can they at least do that?
Nope, because it's not playoff time right now. I'm going to give it to you like this. How they always say, the only way to get in football shape is to play football. The only way to be ready for the postseason and have that all kick in is to be in the postseason, as John Wooden once said. Practice doesn't make perfect, brother. Perfect practice makes perfect. This ain't no postseason. Ain't nobody tripping but y'all too.